A 5% increase in customer demand can create a 50% increase in factory orders. That sounds impossible. Yet companies like Walmart, Amazon, and Procter & Gamble have spent decades dealing with exactly this problem. A few extra customers buy a product. A retailer orders more inventory. A distributor orders even more. A manufacturer ramps up production. Suddenly, warehouses are overflowing, suppliers are overloaded, and stores are running out of stock at the same time. All because demand barely changed. So how does a small increase in sales create massive supply chain chaos? And why do some of the world's largest companies still struggle with it? The answer reveals one of the most expensive hidden problems in business operations.
Imagine a popular product starts selling slightly faster than usual. Nothing dramatic. Maybe demand increases by 5%. Customers are happy. Sales are growing. Everything appears normal. But behind the scenes, companies throughout the supply chain are making decisions based on limited information. The retailer sees higher sales and places a larger order. The distributor sees a larger retailer order and assumes demand is growing faster. The manufacturer sees an even larger distributor order and prepares for a major increase in production. Each company is acting rationally. Each company believes it is protecting itself. And that's exactly the problem. Nobody can see the entire picture. Everyone only sees a small piece of it. The result is that a tiny change at the customer level can become a huge disruption further upstream. Inventory builds up in the wrong places. Factories produce too much, or sometimes not enough. Customers experience shortages while warehouses remain full. So why does a small increase in sales become such a large problem for the entire supply chain? One of the most famous examples came from Procter & Gamble. The company noticed something strange with diaper sales. Customer demand for diapers was relatively stable. Parents were not suddenly having more babies one month and fewer the next. Demand changed slowly and predictably. But when Procter & Gamble looked deeper into the supply chain, the orders told a completely different story. Retailers were placing orders that fluctuated far more than actual sales. Distributors were placing even larger swings in orders. Manufacturing schedules became increasingly unstable. The further upstream the company looked, the more dramatic the changes became. A small increase in purchases at the store level was turning into major production changes at the factory level. The company wasn't alone. Walmart observed similar patterns. So did automotive manufacturers. So did electronics companies. The same cycle kept appearing. A small signal from customers traveled through multiple layers of businesses. At each step, the signal became larger. Every company believed it was making smart decisions. Every company was trying to avoid shortages. Every company was trying to protect itself from uncertainty. But collectively, those decisions were creating the very instability everyone wanted to avoid. Which brings us to the question nobody asks. What exactly happens between the customer and the factory that causes demand to become distorted?
The answer is something called the Bullwhip Effect. The Bullwhip Effect is a supply chain phenomenon where small demand changes become increasingly larger as information moves upstream. Think about cracking a whip. Your hand only moves a short distance, but by the time the motion reaches the end of the whip, the movement becomes much larger. Supply chains often work the same way. A customer buys 1 extra unit. The retailer reacts by ordering 2 extra units. The distributor reacts by ordering 4 extra units. The manufacturer reacts by producing 6 extra units. The original signal becomes amplified, and the further it travels, the larger it becomes. Here's what most people get wrong. The supply chain is not responding directly to customer demand. It is responding to orders. Those are not the same thing. Customer demand reflects what people actually buy. Orders reflect what businesses think they might need in the future. That difference creates distortion.
So what actually happens next? Every company faces uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly what customers will buy next month. To protect themselves, companies create forecasts. A forecast is simply an estimate of future demand. If a retailer sees sales increase by 5%, it may assume demand will continue growing. Instead of ordering 5% more inventory, it might order 10% more. The retailer wants extra protection. This is often called safety stock. Safety stock is extra inventory kept as insurance against unexpected demand or delays. The distributor sees the larger retailer order, but the distributor cannot see customer sales directly. It only sees incoming orders. So the distributor assumes demand may be increasing rapidly. To stay safe, it orders even more inventory. The manufacturer receives an even larger signal. Factory managers increase production. Suppliers order more raw materials. Production schedules change. Labor requirements change. Transportation plans change. Have you ever noticed a product suddenly disappear from shelves and then show up everywhere a few months later? That cycle is often connected to this exact process. Everyone is trying to avoid risk, yet collectively they create more risk. And that's exactly the trade-off. Holding extra inventory reduces shortage, but too much inventory creates excess cost. Ordering aggressively increases protection, but it also increases volatility throughout the network.
Let's look at a simplified example. Imagine actual customer demand increases from 100 units per week to 105 units. That's a 5% increase. The retailer becomes cautious and orders 110 units. The distributor sees 110 units and orders 120. The manufacturer sees 120 and prepares for 140. The supplier increases raw material purchases to support 150. Customer demand increased by 5 units. Factory planning increased by 40 units. That's the bullwhip effect in action. The problem becomes even worse when lead times are long. Lead time is the time between placing an order and receiving it. If products take weeks or months to arrive, companies become more nervous. They place larger orders to protect themselves. The longer the delay, the larger the potential distortion. Then something else happens. Demand eventually stabilizes, but the inventory is already moving through the system. Warehouses fill up. Orders suddenly slow down. Factories reduce production. Suppliers cancel purchases. The supply chain swings from shortage to surplus. The cycle repeats. What started as a small sales increase becomes a much larger operational problem. And all of it comes from one fundamental issue. Information becomes less accurate as it moves through multiple layers of decision-making.
This matters because supply chains are really information systems. Products move physically, but decisions move through information. When information becomes distorted, costs increase rapidly. Companies may build inventory they never needed. Factories may run overtime unnecessarily. Transportation costs rise. Storage costs rise. Working capital becomes trapped in excess inventory. Working capital is money tied up in inventory instead of being available elsewhere. For retailers, this can mean lower profits. For manufacturers, it can mean unstable production schedules. For customers, it often means empty shelves. Toyota became famous for reducing these distortions by sharing information across its network. Instead of reacting only to orders, suppliers gained better visibility into actual demand. That reduced uncertainty and reduced overreactions. For professionals working in planning, forecasting, procurement, or operations, this lesson matters every day. Many business problems that appear to be inventory problems are actually information problems. The companies that manage information best often gain a significant competitive advantage. Not because they predict demand perfectly, because they react more intelligently when demand changes. The most effective supply chains are not the ones that eliminate uncertainty. They're the ones that prevent uncertainty from becoming amplified as decisions move through the network. Small demand changes are inevitable. Massive disruptions are often the result of how companies react to them. If you're curious how companies decide how much inventory to keep in the first place and why they so often get that decision wrong, that's exactly what we'll break down next on the Supply Brief.